Oh my goodness.
Dice Tower Tonight, episode 62.
An event to remember.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a videocast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, we discuss ways to make a game session an event. Decorations, music, and what's a good wine pairing for happy salmon. Also, I break out a game for Crystal and the chat, and we talk about some recent play sessions, and we answer questions from the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Ann Landers to my Dear Abby, Crystal Pisano.
Okay, so here's a fun fact that you do not know. Ann Landers and Dear Abby went to the same college as me, and I did not go to a big college. I went to a tiny private school in Iowa, like that no one has attended and no one has heard of. Morningside College. It was me.
Okay, and then how did I know that then?
You didn't. I'm saying you didn't know that, and yet you brought that up as our honorifics for tonight, and so that's kind of cool.
That's impressive stuff, I guess.
Yeah, not a whole lot of famous people went to my college, so I know the few famous people who did. So how are you, Eric?
I'm okay. This is the first time we've seen each other since the Dice Tower cruise, and I had
a week ago.
I know. Had a wonderful time on the ship, and then immediately afterward, I caught something. Maybe I did catch something on the ship. I have no idea, and that knocked me out for like the whole weekend. And I'm finally feeling like a human being again. So I guess today I'm doing all right, but I missed an episode of the Dice Tower podcast and didn't get a chance to do our regular top 10 list, which was just a little weird.
Yeah. We had somebody put in the chat, hello, the question mark.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm going to make sure that other people can see the stream. I can see it just fine. They might just need to refresh.
That is possible. I'm looking at my screen as well, and it's a little odd. I'm not seeing our usual start.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Chat is oddly quiet. It's just that no one's talking.
You know what? I do enough talking for everybody. So, so yes, the cruise ended a week ago. This was my second time on the cruise. You've been on all of them?
All four of the cruises, yep. And my wife has joined me for the last three. She didn't come to the first one, but I convinced her, and she's adored it ever since.
Yeah, and we had a little more than 800 people on the ship in our group, and it was just delightful. I just can't. I want to thank all of the Dice Tower fans and friends and everyone who joined us on the cruise, because it really was a very special experience. More people knew who I was this year than last. Last year, I feel like we had a lot of people who were just, they just listen to the podcast. They don't watch the YouTube channel as much.
Okay.
And I hadn't been doing this show quite as long. But this year, it seemed more people knew who I was, and a lot of people came up and said they love Dice Tower Tonight, and that was really, really kind of them to do. So if you were one of them, thank you so very much.
Yes, I also got a few people coming up and saying hello, and that they watch the show, and I certainly appreciate that. It was a wonderful time, and we had a few issues due to the cruise before us, trying to get logistics up and running and getting the much bigger Dice Tower library on and off the ship was more challenging than it's been. But we learned a lot, and I think we'll be that much better next time that library moves.
Which it's moving now pretty soon, because Dice West is in just a few weeks here in Las Vegas, where I live. So we're gearing up for that. Honestly, I'm not ready at all, and also very excited.
I too am excited, but I have, as I've mentioned a few times on the show, a ninja son who competes in obstacle course challenges, and actually both he and his little brother have qualified for the World Championships in North Carolina, which is the weekend before Dice Tower West. So we will be traveling there to compete, and then I get back on Monday and then leave Tuesday for Dice Tower West.
Wow.
Yeah, so I am going to be a jet setter for like a 2-week period. It'll be fun.
That is kind of fun. A little bit stressful probably, but exciting.
Yes, yes. So I can't quite focus on West yet. I have to get the ninjas onto the course first.
Totally fine. Well, how about we talk about some board games we've been playing recently?
We should. Would you like to go first?
Sure. So on the cruise, we did have the enormous Dice Tower library at our disposal, and it has been very specifically curated by our Lord and leader,
yes.
Tom Bassel, who is honestly, he knows board games real well. And luckily for me, there was a copy of a board game that's not widely available in America. It is the follow-up from Sashi and Sashi, who is a Japanese publisher. It is their next big game after Let's Make a Bus Route, and It is called Remember Our Trip. This one had been on my radar for a while. I had heard about it. I actually saw it set up on a table at PAX Unplugged in December. They had a bunch of games from overseas available to be played, and I didn't get a chance to play it then. So on the cruise, I took the opportunity, I played it, and if you can't tell by the fact that I'm holding it, I immediately purchased it from Japanese Amazon, literally the day the boat docked, and it arrived on Monday. So
I'm impressed.
5 days later, this is the fastest I've ever gotten a game from overseas.
Wow. They knew you wanted it. It was like ready to go.
I guess, something. And I paid a total, between the shipping and the cost of the game, I paid a total of about $55 American, which really, for a game from overseas, is not horrible.
Yeah, I know.
So in Remember Our Trip, all of the players are collectively trying to recall a trip that they took together. You are piecing together memories onto your player board, which I will show you. I haven't punched all of the components of my game yet, but luckily most of them are pretty straightforward. So everyone has a player board that is identical in shape and layout. And it shows a bunch of little spaces for tokens, including some that are specifically colored. And these are dual-sided. There's two different cities that you can visit on your trip. One is Singapore and one is Kyoto. So then there is a single board that goes in the middle of the table that is the shared board. All of the player boards are your specific memories about the trip. But as you add tokens to your board, if you complete a set, and the sets are based on specifically the type of thing you're remembering. So like, let's say you remember a restaurant or a park or a hotel. There are specific tetramino shapes that you can complete, and they're different based on the type of thing that you're remembering. You put out little circular tokens. I'm going to grab a sheet with those in them onto your board to form those tetramino shapes. And they even show on the tokens what shapes that they are supposed to be. So that makes it a little bit easier kind of to remember what goes where. Once you complete a feature, if those spaces are empty on the shared board in the middle of the table, then that feature gets added to the shared board for everybody. And that is what actually happened on your trip. So it's kind of that thing where like you're trying to remember a thing and you're like, yeah, we went down that street and there was a park there. And someone else is like, no, that was where that restaurant was. Whoever's the first to remember a thing gets to put it on the shared board, and they get bonus points for matching the shared board. And what's neat is then if other players put the same feature in the same place on their own board, they also score bonus points. So if you remember the correct thing, you get extra points as a result of that. So you're getting different amounts of points for the different features, no matter whether they're shared or not. And then you just get bonus points on if they were on the shared board as well. There's also special bonus cards that you can complete, like specific features that you can get certain shapes of or other things like that. And then those special colored spots on the board, you can get bonus points for making sure you put the right tokens in those places as well. So it's similar to Bus Route in that there's a lot of different little things that will give you points, and you can focus on one or all of them kind of in whatever amounts you want. And then the one thing that I didn't mention that is important to note is how you put the tokens on your board. Also similar to Bus Route, there is a set deck of cards that have shapes on them. And when you put out tokens, you draft them, and then you have to put the tokens based on the specific shape of the card for that round. So you can only place tokens in a diagonal line, which will never be a complete Tetramino shape. So you have to build the Tetraminos turn by turn.
Right.
If that makes sense. It's a little hard to visualize. I would show you on the board, but after last week's incident with Honga, I don't want to hold too many things up. These don't seem breakable, but I've got a bad track record recently. It is really fun, very satisfying, and kind of creates a little bit of a narrative, which I didn't necessarily expect. Like one of the players I played with on the cruise just kept making more and more parks. And so we were joking with her. We were like, no, we only went to one park. There were not parks all over the city. And it was just funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to not like it so I wouldn't have to order it from Japan, and I fell in love immediately. I do think I only played it the one time so far, and that was with 4 players. It goes from 2 to 4. I don't know how good it would be with 2, because a lot of the tension in the game comes from getting things completed quickly to get them onto the shared board, so you do score bonus points for them.
Right.
But who knows? It might be really interesting at 2 as well. I just haven't done that yet. So it is a big 2 thumbs up for me for Sashi and Sashi's Remember Our Trip. And if you are interested, it is available on Japanese Amazon. So
okay. I have a copy, and I am always delighted to open up a Sashi and Sashi title, partially because the themes are so unique and charming. There's ones about like a specific camera that they did, Wind the Film. The game about jazz, Take the A Chord, and this one about collectively remembering a trip is such a neat, different theme, and seeing it all work out mechanically. So I've read about how the pieces all work together, but I have not seen it on the table yet to give it all a whirl. And now I really need to get it to the table very soon.
I enjoyed it quite a bit, and kind of for what you said, the unique theme, and the theme comes through as you're playing it, which I think they do a good job of that.
One question coming through on the chat, not about the game you just discussed, but wondering when we're going to talk about Picard. Let's save that for the end of the show.
Yes,
so we'll back end that.
We'll do that at the end.
But at least a brief review and first impressions. I got to play a game on the cruise as well that was new to me, and I believe you've played this one, Crystal. This is Elizabeth Hargrave's Tussie, Mussie.
Yes!
This is a button shy game, one of the wallet series, meaning it's an 18-card folio, looking like that. This is based on, I think it's a Victorian concept, of messaging through flower giving. Now, there's actually a name for it. I can't remember what it is. But the concept of when you present someone with a flower, a specific flower, there is a meaning associated with that. So I pulled out the camellia, which says, "You're a flame in my heart." Or the better ones are, here we go. The hyacinth, "Please forgive me." Or, oh, come on, where's the good one? There's some really nasty insults in here, and I can't find them.
Right, it's so funny that some of the flowers are meant to be insults. Like, it feels like it's Victorian-era snark, basically.
Like, a carnation, "I do not agree." Oh, my favorite, the snapdragon, "You have deceived me."
That's so good.
So on each of these cards, there is that, it's very small text down at the bottom, basically flavor text, that has that little snippet. But basically, from a mechanical standpoint, what's at the bottom doesn't matter. What does matter is the color of these cards, whether or not they have a heart on them, because a heart, and let's get away from the glare, a heart is going to earn you points. Some cards have multiple hearts on them. And then almost all of them will have some sort of extra bonus, maybe an action that you can perform, or extra bonuses for having certain other flowers. The mechanic of the game is that I will, on my turn, draw 2 of these cards from the deck. I look at them both, decide which one I want to put face up and which one I want to put face down, and present both to the next player in sequence. If it's a 2-player game, you just go back and forth, but if it's a 3 or 4, you will go around in a circle. So I present these to Crystal. Crystal looks at them, at least at the face-up one, and decides whether she wants the face-up card or the face-down card, because either she thinks I'm bluffing, or that I really want the face down card, or whatever reason. She just really doesn't want the face up one. And while she can look at the face down card if she takes it, it stays face down in front of her. The other card, the one she doesn't take, comes to me. And then it's the next player's turn. It would be Crystal's turn next. This continues. If we're doing the 3 or 4 player game, it would go clockwise once and then counterclockwise once until everybody has 4 cards. And then you can perform some of those actions on the cards, then score. The ones that are face up, I believe, are your bouquet, and the ones face down are keepsakes. The whole thing is your arrangement, and the cards can matter. Whether you've got some of them face down, you might get points for that. If you have them face up, you might get points for that. It all depends on what cards you've drafted into your hand, into your arrangement for that round. You total up points and score, and then repeat twice more. 3 rounds, and the game is done. For 18 cards, there's a lot of interaction. Your first couple of drafts might give you a direction as to what you want to try and draft for the rest of the round, but you can't always control that. Some are very straightforward, like you get an extra point for every red card or something like that. But then if that's face up, everybody knows not to give you red cards. So then they present a purple card and a face down card. Well, did they just hide the red card they drew? Should I take the face down card, or are they fooling me and I don't want that red card? It's
very much a Princess Bride situation that I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
Yes. It is for all of that interaction, it is a pretty light game. Luck of the draw is still going to play a pretty big role here. If you manage to luck into a really good card, that's just the way it's going to work out. But what I really appreciate here is its portability, for one thing. It does not take up a lot of table space. You just need a small little space for each person's arrangement. A lot of it could be just held in the hand. You could even pass the deck around as the current turn marker. And the fact that you could pull this out in a short period of time while you're waiting for food to arrive at dinner, something like that, and an extremely simple barrier to entry. That mechanic I just explained is very easy to understand, and then you can just sort of learn what the cards do as you see them. Some familiarity with what's in the deck helps on future plays, but at least in the second round, you will have seen most of the cards anyway. So you can very easily become proficient, if not an expert, but at least familiar with the deck. So for a $10 wallet game from a very celebrated designer right now, Tussie Mussie, with some great art from Beth Sobel as well on these flowers. I like it, and it's now made it into like the game bag, or I've even put it in my jacket pocket to bring so that I have something with me all the time. Pretty cool.
That one's great. And do you happen to have in that one, do you have the solo mode? Because the solo mode was designed by someone else. It came with my copy from the Kickstarter, but I do not play a lot of solo games, and I really like the solo mode in this game specifically. And I do not remember who designed it. But it's interesting because you're playing against an AI. You're still putting cards face up and face down, but there are round cards that prescribe how you do them face up and face down. So some of them, sometimes it's 2 face up, sometimes it's 2 face down, sometimes it's 1 of each, and then you choose a card and the AI gets the other, and then every round the AI gets to keep an extra card, and so their row grows over the course of the 3 rounds. They have 4, then 5, and then 6 cards. So you have to work really hard to outscore them, even though they're kind of getting cards at random to some degree.
Okay.
It's really interesting, and I like it quite a bit.
Huh. So is it like just a little sheet that goes in here? Are there any extra components for the solo mode?
Yes, there are extra cards that come with it. And I will look up on Board Game Geek real quick who designed it. But yeah, it comes with like a set of round cards, and you flip it over and it tells you which cards have to be face up or face down of the ones that are getting picked from. And it also adds in a couple of extra little rules, I want to say, in each round. Optional or something like that. It's been a little bit since I've played the solo mode. I apologize for not remembering specifically, but I would say if you are someone who likes playing solo games, like if you're waiting at the airport or on your commute or something else like that, it's a good one because of that. So it's called Tussie Mussie Flower Shop. That is the solo mode, and it was designed by Mike Mullins. And it came with it's a 6-card solo expansion. And it came with 2 Kickstarter backers, and it is available to purchase through the Button Shy Games website. So if you order your game directly from Button Shy, if you like solo games, add on the 6-card edition. I would highly recommend it.
Okay. Well, next time I see Button Shy, I will have to
pick that up.
Yeah. Because I'd like to give that a whirl. Anyway,
it's a good one.
Still like it.
For sure.
Okay, so it is game time, Crystal. And
game time!
I warned you that this was a little bit of a throwback to our episode from 2 weeks ago, which, if you recall, was our discussion of game show games or board games that felt like game shows. And one of the games that came up in that discussion that I actually hadn't seen and played in a while is Bezzerwizzer.
Oh, yeah.
So I dug out my copy of Bezzerwizzer and tried to figure out if we could make this work for our show. And I think we're going to make this work. So Bezzerwizzer is ordinarily a multiplayer trivia game. You play in either individuals or teams, up to 4 of those teams. And in fact, let me move the camera. I apologize for any motion-sick viewers here. Hey, Voltron, just come over here. And we're going to rotate down so that, look at all that software boxes I've got. There we go. Ta-da! Bezzerwizzer! Okay, so in Bezzerwizzer, you have this track, and the object is to make it all the way around the track, which is 20 points. And the way you earn points is by answering questions, like most trivia games. Now, the key is that you have multiple categories in this game. In fact, I forgot to take my list of categories out from underneath the webcam before I set it down. So here we go. And I think I'm even going to move this a little farther down so that we can see better. There we go. So there's a whole bunch of categories. Look at all those categories.
So many categories.
They're represented by tiles. And so I've got my bag of tiles, and I would pull out 4 of these category tiles, and then all of the players would be doing this simultaneously. They all sort of decide which position to put the 4 tiles that they have drawn, saying that I will answer this question for 1 point, this question for 2 points, this one for 3, and this one for 4. And then you're going to then take turns answering the questions point by point and moving your piece around the board, hopefully getting to the end before your opponents. Now, the interaction for this game, and one of the reasons why it feels like a game show, is that you have these special powers. In the regular game, you have the swap tile, which sounds a little like swap, which is exactly what that tile does. In the main game, you can take any face-up tile, any question that has not yet been answered, and swap it on the board. So you can mess with your opponents, say, oh, you don't like questions about literature? Okay, I'll take your TV question and you can have my literature tile. You could swap the positioning of a couple of yours. You can do all sorts of maneuvering with the swap tile. In our game, I'm going to let Crystal, in fact, let me talk about the structure here. We're going to play 2 rounds. 2 rounds of 4 questions. Your goal, and I've put the marker here, is to score 12 points, Crystal. I have no idea how easy that's going to be. You have a potential of scoring 10 points a round. So, 12 in 2 rounds? Easy, right?
In theory.
Yeah. So that's your goal. The swap tile is going to let you swap out one of the tiles that you have drawn. You have to position it first in the 1, 2, 3, or 4 points, but then you can say, I'm using my swap, and I'm going to take out that category I don't want, but then you're stuck with whatever gets drawn in that position. Okay. Make sense? So that is your version of the swap tile. The Bezzerwizzer tiles in the main game offer ways for players to answer questions for other people, to sort of steal points from their opponents. What the Bezzerwizzer tiles are going to do for you, Crystal, is get help from the chat. The chat is your lifeline. Ordinarily, you're not allowed to look at the chat, but if you use one of your Bezzerwizzer tiles, you can look on the chat as much as you want, sift through their answers, and pick one that's going to make sense for you. So chat, feel free to discuss all you want as we play. Crystal just won't take a look unless she uses a Bezzerwizzer tile.
I just moved my window to block it, so I cannot see the chat anymore.
So you've got the 1 Zwap and 2 Bezzerwizzer tiles for the entire game. That's for both rounds.
Okay.
This all makes sense?
It makes sense so far. I love Bezzerwizzer, so this is great.
All right, so we're going to pull 4 tiles from the bag. 1, 2, 3. I pulled 5, so let me throw 1 away. All right, we have the speech bubble, which I'm sure makes sense. That is language. So foreign languages, foreign words, idioms, and sayings, which I feel like is a strength for you.
And that's what's funny, though, is the ones that always feel like a strength are where I get something that I have no idea about usually.
Literature is the second category. We also have the art, which includes artists, painters, sculptors, theater, and opera. I have some knowledge in some of those areas. And last but not least, we have, I think this is fashion. No, this is design. Yes, fashion, design. Furniture, interiors, household design, logos, and symbols. So, Crystal, which one of these do you want as your 1-point question?
Okay, let's put art as my 1 point.
Art is 1 point.
Let's do literature. No, let's do fashion as 2.
Fashion is 2 points.
Or design is 2.
Yep.
Literature as 3.
Okay.
And whatever the speech bubble was for 4.
So, I mean, you don't have to decide until we get to it, but are there any of those you want to swap out with your Zwap tile?
Based on my vague remembrance of some of the other categories in this game, I actually feel like you drew a pretty decent set for me. So as of right now, I don't think I'm going to swap.
Okay. All right, then I think we should get started. So your first question is in the art and stage category. What Italian term is used for any depiction of Christ taken from the cross and held by the Virgin Mary?
Any depiction of Christ depicted on the cross?
Depiction of Christ taken from the cross and held by the Virgin Mary. You could use one of your Bezzerwizzer tiles if you want.
I mean, it feels like I shouldn't use a Bezzerwizzer on a 1-point question. An Italian word for a depiction of Christ. Oh, come on. Bible school, kick back in, something. An Italian word. I don't know, and I don't want to use a Bezzerwizzer on a 1-point because if we got to get to 12, I might need the chat's help for something more difficult. So this is why it was my 1 point, so it's fine.
Okay, sounds good. So you're just going to pass.
I'm going to pass. So if you want to see what the chat said, I'm sure someone in the chat knows it.
Actually,
but I'm passing.
Someone in the chat did have it correct. The answer is pietà.
I literally, that word is no idea. So
that's fine. That's why it's the 1-point question. Moving on to the fashion design category. What flexible brimmed felt hat with a creased crown was known as the all-purpose hat of the 20th century?
Flexible brim, creased crown?
Yep. The all-purpose hat of the 20th century. Yeah, where's Tom when you need him, right?
I know. I feel like creased brim. Wait, creased brim?
Creased crown.
Crown.
Flexible brim.
Flexible brim. Creased crown. I'm going to go with the fedora.
Fedora is correct.
Okay.
You get 2 points.
I was trying to picture what creased crown meant, and that's all I could picture. So.
And several people in the chat managed to get that one.
Okay, good.
Better not be fedora. Okay, I don't know why not. Okay, so great, 2 points. Here's your 3-point question. This is going to be the literature category. How many lyrical lines did Shakespeare use to create his sonnets? 10, 14, or 17?
What's funny is I used to have certain Shakespearean sonnets memorized. Even though I was an English major in college, I was a creative writing major, not a literature major. So my Shakespearean knowledge is not as good as most people assume it is. But I believe sonnets are 14 lines. And I can't go to the chat for this. I was an English major. Oh gosh, I'm saying 14. I'm done. That's it.
14 is correct. Well
okay.
Done. 1, 2,
These are the ones that stress me out, are the ones that I should know. And I'm like, oh, everything leaves my brain.
And many people in the chat are also getting that. So you've got good teammates. If you need to turn to them, they are ready to help. Okay.
All right.
Last one for this round. This is your 4-point question. This was your strength, you're saying, in language.
Supposedly, yeah.
How deep was the water when steamboat apprentice Samuel Clemens shouted, "Mark Twain"?
How
deep was the water when steamboat apprentice Samuel Clemens shouted, "Mark Twain"?
Oh, this is punny or puzzly, or like this is something obvious that's not obvious. Oh, and what's funny is Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, is from my home state of Missouri, and I've been to the Mark Twain Museum, and I know a lot about steamboats. I'm going to go ahead and use a Bezzerwizzer on this one, just because I can't think of whatever the clever answer is.
Okay, so you may look at the chat. There are a couple of people who have answered. Ignore all those 14s because they're answering the previous question.
Yep, okay.
But I think there's enough of a delay that some of those things are just coming in right now.
Okay, so far some of the answers: 20 feet. Mark Twain. Like he said the thing that would become his pen name.
Mark Twain is in quotes, yes.
Yes. Twain. Like there's not a number that I can... a couple people have said 12 feet, 20 feet, 2 fathoms, 2 fathoms. Oh, man. Well, there doesn't seem to be a prevailing answer. So, oh gosh, the dogs are barking. So we're going to say, you know what? Chappie put it in all caps with an exclamation point. So 2 fathoms is going to be my answer.
You can thank Chappie because it's 2 fathoms.
Oh, yay!
Yep.
Thanks, Chappie.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right, you only need 3 points in round 2, and you got it. I mean, I've made this apparently very easy. So we're going to get rid of that question card, and we're actually going to get rid of these 4 categories too, because I mean,
they were too easy.
You've
clearly
done them, so you don't need any more of those questions. All right, round 2. You only need to get 3 points. That's all. And you still have 2 of your lifelines. You've got your swap, and you've got your last help from the audience. All right, here we go.
Oh, and I got to cover the chat up again. Sorry, chat. Going bye-bye.
Bye, chat. So your first category, how are they defining this? Oh, very simple. TV and radio.
Okay.
Let's put that over there.
And this is a game from 2008, so I have to keep that in mind.
2008, yes. Traditions and beliefs, which includes religion, mythology, traditions, customs, and habits.
Okay.
We have, I believe that is architecture, buildings, architects, and designers. And, last but not least, humans. Physiology, anatomy, psychology, medicine, and lifestyles.
Okay. Well, we're going to put TV in the number 4 spot, because that's the only one.
The number 4 spot.
That's the only one that I feel like I have some kind of an edge in.
Yep.
We will put humans for 3.
Okay.
Beliefs for 2.
All right.
And architecture for 1.
I think I may have done something similar. So, all right, we're all set.
Yes. And then...
Oh, do you want to swap any of those?
Yeah, I think I would like to use my swap. I'm actually going to swap out the beliefs one in the 2 spot.
You got it. Swapping out that one. Instead, you have sports.
No!
Congratulations.
I mean, I'm not horrible at sports, but like when you ask me about dates or player names or like minute details, I will know nothing. So that's not a good swap for me, but that's okay.
It also includes athletes' games and records. So, if it's maybe a game, you never know. All right, let's begin with our 1-point question. Here is architecture. When the Bastille was stormed in Paris, what type of building was being attacked?
You would think I would know such a thing. The Bastille is definitely a thing that exists or existed.
I can confirm that it's a thing, yes. Oh, yes, she did swap.
Yes, it sounds like it's something being stormed. It is some kind of a fortified structure. I don't think the Bastille was a castle, though. But I can't think of anything else that would be an appropriate answer, unless it was like a fort or a camp. But that's not, it's a building, it's architecture. So I'm going to say a castle, even though I don't actually know the answer.
I'm afraid castle is incorrect. Several in the chat did get prison correct. It was a prison.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's one of those ones that you're like, of course it's a prison.
All right, moving on to your 2-point question. This is the one you swapped for in sports. What are the horizontal rows on a chessboard called?
Oh, gosh, it should theoretically be this is a board game show.
Yeah.
The horizontal rows. Because I know that, like, when you're playing chess officially, you say, like, knight to K2 or whatever. Like, there's letters and numbers associated with things, but if they have a name, yes. I don't know it.
This is a specific term.
So I'm sure someone in the chat knows this one, but I don't want to go to the chat only because 2 points won't get me to the win.
Nope. No, strategy. I like it. I'm
just going to say alpha. Oh, no, it can't be alphanumeric because that would be letters and numbers. I'm going to say positions. That's not a good answer. That's all I got.
Nope. A lot of answers coming through on the chat. A few have it correct, though. It is ranks.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
So rank and file comes from the chess board positions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I swapped just to learn that fun fact.
There you go. All right. Moving on to humans. Physiology, anatomy, psychology, medicine, and lifestyles. This is 3 points. Get this correct, and you do have the win, Crystal.
Okay.
Running, aerobics, and rowing are all what type of exercise that keeps the heart healthy?
That would be cardio or cardiovascular in long form.
Cardiovascular is correct. You got it. So that is technically the win, but we're going for glory now because I want to see how you do in 2008 television and film.
I definitely have more knowledge post 2008 in television and film, but let's see what happens.
What Fox show, hosted by John Walsh, was responsible for the capture of over 1,000 criminals?
Okay, John Walsh was responsible for the capture. There was the one. Is John Walsh? Is that the FBI Most Wanted? Oh gosh.
And you do have the Bezzerwizzer tile, so you can just flip that chat up if you want.
I'm just gonna do that in a second. I'm gonna try and suss this out on my own first. Sure. So I don't think it would be cops because cops is just following police around. It's not responsible for capturing people. But there was definitely a show on in like the 90s or the 2000s that was like based on the FBI's most wanted list, I think. What else was there? Like there's that To Catch a Predator show, but that's not John Walsh. That's somebody else. I would recognize the name if I heard it, but that's not it. So I'm going to say it's something like FBI Most Wanted something or other, and I am going to use my Bezzerwizzer to look at the chat.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. America's Most Wanted. That is definitely it. As soon as I saw it, that is it. That is my answer.
Yeah, that's it. America's Most Wanted. I guess they would have accepted America Fights Back, which I think was a subtitle, sub-series, part of America's Most Wanted.
Interesting.
And that's another 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. You have succeeded. You have surpassed. I think next time we need to go for 15 if we're going to do this again. But well done.
I think that would be fun.
Well done, Crystal. That is Bezzerwizzer, and now we're going to bring my camera back up here, and now you can see my sweatshirt. Hello. I'm back. Hi. But well done, and thank you to the chat because, you folks are doing very, very well answering all of these questions. I think a team certainly helps. Maybe fewer Bezzerwizzers next time. Anyway.
I know. That was too easy, clearly.
Well done.
Oh, someone in the chat said To Catch a Predator is Chris Hansen, and yes, that is. Yeah, yes. If I'd heard that name, I would have known that one.
But I think our difference in ages is also showing there because that was, I think, early Fox television. So yeah, that was one of the first series on Fox, I think.
I remember America's Most Wanted. I know that you're a little bit older than me, but not by a significant margin. And it's funny, like, I feel like I watched a lot of television as a kid, but I also know I played outside and did all the kid stuff a lot too. I guess when you're a kid, you just have a lot of time that when you're an adult, you just don't have anymore.
Okay, so moving on to our discussion for the day, we were chatting about what we wanted to talk about, and we came up with the idea of making a particular board game session something special. I mean, we're sort of used to showing up to game night, throwing something on the table, let's play, and then as soon as that's done, let's get rid of that and just throw something else on the table. Let's get as many games as we can done. But sometimes when you're trying to get one of those epic games played or something that you're really looking forward to playing, it becomes a scheduled event just for that game. And there are ways to make that even more special, and we wanted to run down some of those. So,
absolutely.
I know you were frantically writing notes down, Crystal, before we got started, so I'm going to let you take the floor. What ways can you make a gaming event special? What have you done in the past?
So I think some of the easy or simple ways are to just take the ambiance of the environment around the game and add in things that fit with the game. So that's stuff like thematic music, for instance. Like if you're playing a space game of some kind, even if it's not intellectual property based, putting on the soundtracks from spacey movies would be something that you could do. Also, you can make food that fits with the theme of a game. So, in theory, again, with a space game, you could pick up some astronaut ice cream at the store or something. You could make a full meal if you want to. If you're playing, Kitchen Rush, you could have some of the items that are in the game, or Food Chain Magnate, you could pick up fast food before the game session. You can kind of create a feeling of the things from the game outside of the game. You can wear costumes. Yep. I have one instance where I kind of did that, and I'll mention that in a moment. But I think I've seen pictures of people fully dressed up in medieval wear to play board games and stuff. And I think that's an interesting way to up the ambiance a little bit. Have you ever dressed up for a game, Eric?
So the closest thing I ever did in dressing up was when we did a How to Host a Murder, which was, tangentially related, more of a role-playing game than a board game. But it was a Star Trek: The Next Generation, How to Host a Murder. I came as Data, and my roommate was Worf and was just grumpy the whole time. But, I mean, showing up in costume, it was one thing. You could show up and just be in regular clothes, but actually trying to dress up and play the part a little bit was, added to the whole flavor. I've had silly hats get worn at the board game table before. I haven't had not that many opportunities to dress up for the event, but I have played music on occasion. Movie soundtracks are very helpful for that because they can set a scene. There's also going back to role-playing concepts, there's companies that specifically have ambiance for role-playing games. Sirenscape is the company I'm thinking of, that have like sounds tapestries that you can change and transition as you move around in an adventure, and really sets the scene that way.
And there's a website, hopefully someone in the chat will remember what it is, because I don't offhand. There's a website that created soundtracks for board games specifically, and like specific board games. So like if you were playing Arkham Horror, they have a soundtrack for that. And it's such a simple URL, whatever it is. It's like literally like board game music or something really simple like that. Hopefully someone in the chat can remember. But yeah, I think those are nice. I will say movie soundtracks are a good choice for almost anything. Like if you don't have something specific that fits and you just want something kind of big and epic sounding, what I often have done is I'll go to Pandora or whatever streaming service, and I'll find a playlist based on a composer who happens to do a lot of movie soundtracks. So someone like John Williams, or oh my gosh, there's another one that's a go-to for me that now my brain is blanking on. But like finding, instead of just a single movie's soundtrack, a composer who does movie soundtracks will kind of get you a variety of things, which is nice. As far as dressing up is concerned, I have two specific instances where I have worn something out of the ordinary for a board game night. A couple of years ago, I did some fundraising for Extra Life, which is a charity organization that helps people who are struggling, and it's a lot game-based fundraising, either video games or board games. And I set a specific goal for myself, and I said if I hit that goal, that on Extra Life Day, I would wear an inflatable T-Rex costume. And I would play specific games wearing that T-Rex costume. And I promised North Star Games that if they retweeted and helped me fundraise just via spreading the word, that I would play Happy Salmon wearing the T-Rex costume. And I did. And there is still video evidence of this on Twitter. Yep. I think it's on the Board Game Blitz, my podcast's account from a couple of years ago. But if you look up T-Rex Happy Salmon, you'll probably find it, because that's an odd thing to search.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, although very difficult, because holding cards and running around a table while wearing an inflatable T-Rex costume is not easy. But it was really funny. And I definitely cheated without technically realizing it. The other instance, the most thematically epic event of a board game that I've ever played, I think, would be here a couple of winters ago when the Fallout board game was released. Okay. I was excited. To tell you how excited I was, I'll just tell you all of the things that I did when we just sat down to play that game on a single night at my house.
Okay.
So I put up behind the table my Brotherhood of Steel flag, my giant flag of the Brotherhood of Steel. I wore my Vault 111 hoodie and my Pip-Boy, like my actual Pip-Boy that I had. I had my dog meat plushie sitting next to me on the table. And we played music from the soundtrack from the video games. So to say that I was excited about the Fallout board game is an understatement.
Yeah.
And perhaps all of those things contributed to my utter disappointment in that game. I was so bummed. That game had very interesting components to it that could have been a good game, but the execution was not there for me. And I don't know if I set my expectations too high. I have heard that people have found ways to like it over time, but I was really, really bummed by that one.
I guess it seems like this would be something that you'd want to do for a game that you already know you enjoy. It's dangerous to put that much effort and work into a game hasn't proven itself quite yet. But I guess it's sort of like a movie premiere. You know, you've got Super Bowl parties and you've got Oscar parties and that sort of thing. And so everyone's first experience with a game, and you're just getting hyped up for that. If you already know whether you like it or not, that may temper the excitement just a little bit.
Yeah, I probably should have been less excited, but I love the Fallout video game series, and it felt like it was Fantasy Flight that put that one out, I believe. And they tend to do things right. So alas, it did not work.
Rick Thompson in the chat says they put on ice cream truck music for a play of Rocky Road a la mode, and it lasted 4 minutes before they had to turn it off.
Oh gosh, that's funny though. Like, hey friends, we're gonna theme it up here and put on some music for our game session. Oh my gosh.
I did. We were doing a session of it was Star Trek. Which Star Trek game was it? It may have been Fleet Captains. And I wanted to put like a Star Trek playlist and just play, because I've got a good amount of music from Star Trek, but my phone didn't have all of those pieces on it. I think I only had the Deep Space Nine theme and like one other track.
Okay.
And like, okay, Star Trek playlist. And we're like, wait, didn't we hear that one already? And so it was just the same 2 songs looping. Again, we stopped that real quick too.
Hey, as long as it's not the Enterprise theme song. And I know that there's actually a thing on Twitter right now. People are like singing it and hashtagging it. You can like it if you want. I do not like Faith of the Heart. I think it is the worst Star Trek theme song.
It's been a long road getting from there to here.
Oh no,
really.
Eric, don't do this to me.
My time is finally here.
It doesn't feel like Star Trek. Which I hate when people say that. Like, this isn't real Star Trek. Because that's a horrible thing to say. All Trek is real Trek. And it is okay if people like that theme song. I am just not fond of it. Although I'm not fond of Enterprise in general. So that could be part of it.
I'm just going where my heart will take me. That's all.
Oh, gosh.
There was another... I brought out the Voltron miniatures game.
Yeah.
And I insisted when I finally formed Voltron, I'm like, stop. Okay, hold up. And I had to play the Ready to Form Voltron, Activate Interlocks I had from the soundtrack with the dun 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 dun. I made him like sit there and wait while I got that ready and play. All right, now I can form Voltron. I
did get to play the new release, the Top Gun strategy game on the cruise. And if the Wi-Fi had been better on the boat, which it was not great, I would have definitely had Danger Zone playing when we went into the dogfighting phase, because how can you not? Also, quick review, the Top Gun strategy game is so much fun. I love it. There's a beach volleyball phase and a dogfighting phase. And you go back and forth between those 2 phases, and whoever wins the beach volleyball game gets to choose who the attacker and defender are during the hop, the dogfighting phase. And there is a mechanic called flipping the bird in the rules.
You were telling me about this. You have to, it's very difficult. You have to like position so that you're just in the right, you're like 1 level above your opponent.
You have to be in the same space, facing the same direction, and 1 elevation higher than them. And you are then allowed to flip your plane upside down, flip the bird, and win the hop immediately.
Win.
Which will almost never happen because it's a very, like, the dogfighting is highly strategic, and to maneuver yourself into that position would be very, very difficult. But it should be. Honestly, though, if y'all see that game on the shelves of Target, I do not necessarily just pass it by. I'll just say that.
We've been having such fun with our discussion. I want to leave a little bit of room for questions. And a couple of other things that came to mind in ways to set the mood for a game night. There was a company, I don't know if they're still in business or not. It was called Adventure Sense. And
oh gosh, yeah.
They produced these little canisters of, I'm not sure what they were actually. Essential
like
oils.
Gel.
Yeah, it was like little pellets actually, and
that's right.
And they were very specific scents, like new spaceship or under the castle sewers, and like catacombs or campfire, which is pretty cool. And another way to you'd open up one of these in a corner and sort of let the scent waft around the room for an event. And the other thing was there was a wonderful podcast, sadly defunct, hosted by Rich Sommer of Mad Men fame. And one of his segments was pairing board games with cocktails.
Oh, it was so good.
And that was really fun because it was something that you didn't get to hear very often. And he would try and take the essence of a game and find some sort of classic cocktail or maybe an obscure cocktail and make that work. And then told you how to make it and how to find the ingredients. And it was really cool. So if you are of a drinking persuasion, that is an interesting suggestion as well, to try and get the theme matched with an adult beverage or a non-adult beverage.
One of my favorite cocktails, and I'm not a big drinker, truly, but I learned about on his podcast. It's called the Jack Rose, and it's hard to get because it uses a type of liquor that is really old and fairly uncommon nowadays to find, called Applejack. And it also uses real pomegranate syrup, which you do not find. Most of the time when you get grenadine, it's not actual pomegranate syrup. But that's where I learned about that cocktail for the first time. And there is a speakeasy here in Las Vegas called Herbs and Rye that has it on their menu. They have a decade-based menu where they have cocktails from different decades throughout the 1900s. And it's in, I think, the 1920s, I believe. And it is really, really good.
All right. Anything else we want to hit in our setting the stage and throwing an event for a board game discussion?
I think the only other thing I would say is, aside from just setting the mood around a single board game, you can also loop some games together to kind of set an event as well. Like you could connect games to one another, play games that are in a series. Like if you theoretically played the North Sea, the Raiders of the North Sea, the whatever, you played all of those together, that could be event-like. Or I do know people who have taken a legacy game, some of them, and kind of played the whole thing all at once. And I think since most of the legacy games tend to have a pretty overarching narrative, playing it all at once can definitely help create an event-like feel as well.
Rick in the chat mentions using little bottles of flavored water for potion explosion. Like every time you activate a particular potion, you have to down the potion.
Okay, that's cute.
To get actually the effect.
Yeah, like can have a bunch of yellow ones and pink ones or whatever else.
Yeah,
and then everybody's well hydrated, which honestly I'm sometimes bad at doing during board game sessions because I'm so distracted by games that I forget to drink the water that's right next to me.
As long as everybody knows what's in the little vials, that's
colored water.
Yeah, very important to know what's there.
Yes.
All right, so if anybody has questions, we have a few minutes left and we can hang out for a little bit. And any questions for me or Crystal, get those in the chat and we'll see what we can do to answer them. But we should now get back to the question that came up very early in the show today. Crystal, we are 2 episodes in. How are you liking Star Trek Picard?
It is epic in a way that I didn't expect. Like, they're not holding and I'm not going to spoil anything for people who haven't seen it. So please know nothing I'm going to say will be a spoiler in any way. I'm just going to talk about my feelings and very, very general things. They are not holding our hand with this show. They're not easing their way in. They've just kind of gone 0 to 60 in setting up a very big epic story. And they've set up a lot of dominoes in just the first 2 episodes that will eventually fall in some fashion, but how or where or why, I don't know. And it's funny because they've presented questions and they've already answered some of those questions, but there's a lot of unanswered questions as well. I'm impressed specifically with the new cast members who were not part of the Star Trek universe until this show. They've created some new characters that are very interesting.
Yeah.
And I am very invested in where this story is going. I don't know what I was expecting out of it, truly. But I'm really, really, really loving it. And I have to say, because it's me, number 1 is such a good boy. He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy.
I think my favorite character, well, it's hard to say without spoiling things. But I really like Picard's Romulan caretaker. What's her name? I really liked her.
Laris?
Actually, both of them.
Yeah, Laris is the female.
Yep.
And I can't remember her counterpart's name.
They're both very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just like them we just are presented with them. Hey, and it takes a while to figure out, like, wait, these are Romulans, and they're hanging out with
I didn't pick
Picard.
that up right away either. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, like, and it's what's funny is they've just presented them matter of fact, and they haven't really explained why they're there. And I assume we'll find that out at some point. But
yeah. So I'm very pleased. A new episode tomorrow, and I believe at least for a few more days, if you search on YouTube, you can see the premiere episode. So it should be available to everybody to at least try out.
Yes, they put the first episode available online for free, but only until a certain date in February, and I don't remember what that date was. I think it's coming up
like
soon.
Another week, or maybe by the end of this week. It's something like that.
Yeah. But it's neat because in theory, for people who do want to hop onto CBS All Access, I know I feel like a shill for them sometimes, but honestly, I believe in the stuff that they're creating. So at this point, you will have Picard to watch live as it airs, and you have 2 full seasons of Discovery and 9 short treks to watch.
Yes.
And I've been telling people, because I have a friend in board games actually who just picked up Discovery recently and is watching season 1 currently. Make sure if you do pick up Discovery that between seasons 1 and 2, you watch the first 4 short treks. You technically don't have to, but you should. And it will be beneficial and you will want to do that. But they have them listed separately in the app, which is tough. Like short treks are listed as their own thing. Yeah. If you don't know to look for them, you won't catch them.
Yeah. So let's get to at least one board game question that is coming in the chat. What's your favorite genre of board games?
So if we're talking theme, generally I tend to gravitate towards space. If we're talking mechanics, I tend to gravitate more recently toward worker placement, which is interesting because there are a lot of heavy worker placement games that I haven't played yet, but I've started picking up more and more. Like I just played Viticulture for the first time a few weeks ago and really enjoyed it. And I played the Essential Edition from 2015, not the original 2013 release. But yeah, I would say space for themes and worker placement for mechanics. What about you?
I think space is also a theme that I immediately gravitate to. I also like, unique, crazy themes. That's not really a genre.
I'm the same way. Yeah, though anything that's not common is also a draw for me.
Yeah. I think engine building is probably my my closest favorite category, and then there are some offshoots of that. Deck building is usually an engine building system. So efficiency engines I really like. I like being able to upgrade things, which deck building does. And pick up and deliver often does some of that as well. While you are in the process of moving things around, you get better at doing that. So it's engine building, but then pick up and deliver and deck building are sort of offshoots. Bag building as well are part of that.
Okay. Somebody in the chat said to make sure to play with the Tuscany board for Viticulture, which has 4 seasons. And I believe that is what I played with as well. We played with the Tuscany board. We had 4 seasons. And we also played with the workers, the upgraded workers that had specific powers. You only pick 1 or
yes.
You pick 2 per game. Whatever expansion that piece is, we played with those as well.
So you definitely had Tuscany in there.
Okay.
I just got Tuscany for Christmas, actually.
Oh, nice.
I haven't integrated it, and I still have it in a separate box. I think I can fit it all into the Viticulture box. I haven't tried yet.
So you and I haven't talked about this, but I'm sure you've probably mentioned it on the podcast in the past, because I think you all played it a while back. But you, I assume, played and liked Fantastic Factories, if you like engine building to some degree. Or have you played that one?
I have not. It was one that I saw go by a few times on the cruise, but I did not get a chance to play it. That should go on my list for Dice Tower West to try and get to the table.
It's funny. I just talked about it in the most recent episode of Board Game Blitz. It shook me how much I liked Fantastic Factories. And I had heard a lot of praise, but it's one of those games that when you describe the theme and the mechanics, it doesn't sound special, truly. I can't explain well why it's as good as it is. It just flows so well. So I highly recommend it to just about anybody, honestly.
Interesting. You have me intrigued. Kabuki asks, do you like any solo games at all? Do you have a favorite of the ones that you've played?
So I have played the solo modes of a few games. I have not played a lot of dedicated solo games, but a few months ago, a friend of mine brought over a print and play copy of Black Sonata. I had never played it before then, and she literally kind of brought it out and taught it to me and let me play it with her watching just because she wanted to see my reactions to it. Shout out to my friend Kathy. She is awesome and always introduces me to interesting things. So Black Sonata is a deduction game where you are trying to kind of hunt down and find out, like, it's about Shakespeare's, like, dark ladies. I don't know if that's the right term, but there's a bunch of people that are possible, and you're going to different locations, and there's this keyhole system on the cards that when you put a thing next to another thing and then flip it over, you can see if the person you were looking for is in the city you're in or not. And people move. There's like this, I can't describe it. It's weird because, like, they literally every turn the people move, and you're trying to find the right person and you don't know who the right person is, and you're looking for clues, and it is so cool. They actually just had, I believe, expansions and the base game on Kickstarter, a reprint. I think it's already over on Kickstarter, but I imagine they might do late pledges or something. So if you're interested in solo gaming and you like deduction, look up Black Sonata. I was impressed. I don't do solo gaming for the most part, and it was really cool.
Interesting. No, I haven't done a whole lot. I think maybe one of my favorites is Freedom and Freeze's Friday. I also like Finished from his solo series. I haven't played Fire, which is his most recent solo in that series. I don't often play the solo games, but I have a couple in my arsenal just for those rare occasions when I need to play something. I keep intending to play Seventh Continent solo. But I haven't gotten into the habit of making that happen.
I honestly want to come back to Seventh Continent now that I know that we got a very large rule wrong, and my dislike of that game is likely based in the fact that we were playing it very wrong.
Really?
I need to come. Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to remember what your major complaint was there. I think.
Well, it was just too difficult for us, really, like with 4 players. And I thought that it was because we played with 4 players that it was so difficult. But it turns out that when you get movement in the game real wrong, it makes things way more difficult, because the movement rules in the game state that on revealed cards, tiles, whatever you want to call them, if things are revealed connected to one another, a single movement can move you from somewhere to anywhere.
Oh.
And we were doing it card to card the entire time.
Okay.
So we wasted like 16, 17, 18 hours of total game time over multiple sessions doing it very wrong. So I do want to try it again at some point, because I really thought I would like Seventh Continent a lot, and I ended up not liking it at all, and not for a good reason. So that's proof of why Judgment Sun games should be tempered, especially if you've never read the rule book and you were taught by a friend. And again, I'm not criticizing my friend. I get rules wrong in games all the time. Yep. This is not a complaint about that person, because I do the same thing. But to read the rules of games that I'm going to be playing over and over again is a good lesson for me.
Yep. So one more I think we should probably get to. Gator Dave asked...
Oh, good. This is the one I wanted us to answer.
Yes. Did Eric and Crystal get to play a game together on the cruise?
We did.
Yes.
Just one, although one game multiple times.
Yes. It was...
And that was...
The Crew.
The Crew. Which, admittedly, coming into the cruise, Tom and some other people had hyped up pretty big. Like, they were talking a lot about this game and how awesome it was and all of this stuff. And I will admit, I was like, okay, y'all calm down. How, is it really that good? And then we played it, and it's really that good.
It's pretty good. The Crew is an upcoming game, at least in English, from Cosmos. It is a cooperative trick-taking game. Most of the rounds, it's like scenario-based. I think there's 50 scenarios.
50, yeah.
And each one tweaks the rules a little bit, but most of the time you've got a deck of cards in 4 suits, and then there is a separate trump suit with only a 1, 2, 3, and 4 in it. And there's another deck, a smaller deck, that you will flip up cards that say which ones need to be won by a particular player. So if you flip up the green 4 in round 1, the leader of the crew needs to get the green 4. And
so you just play a trick-taking game
and
make sure that whatever trick has the green 4 in it goes to that person. It's simple at its core, but very, very interesting, especially as they add more rules and you have more things that you're required to do on a mission. You are limited. You are not allowed to communicate with your team members aside from some very specific hints that you can give about what is in your hand. And those hints become very important. And I will say, I think I'm going to continue saying this. I believe that the crew should probably not be anyone's first trick-taking game, or it would be difficult for this to be someone's first trick-taking game because you need to understand a little bit deeper strategy about how trick-taking games work and how to do well at them for this game to be easy to pick up.
Right. I mean, you need to, because this game, the crew is all about control and when to take it, when to seed it, when to force certain things to happen, and having a general sense and a comfort with leading and following and trump suits. That's what you need to know about.
For sure. I'm comfortable with trick taking. I've played a ton of hearts and spades, and recently I've played a lot of Tichu. I learned Skull King this past year. I know a lot of trick taking games. I've played diamonds, but yeah, this one, even you watched me when we played that first round. I was like, I'm confused about what the right thing to do here is.
Because it's not always if you're normally doing a trick taking game. Often it's like, well, I want to take control of the trick. I want to win a trick so that I can then get rid of more of my cards or play this particular card. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to stay out of the way. If you have cards that are going to spoil a trick, maybe you want to slough those off when you'd normally be playing a trump card or trying to win a trick another way. It's cool. And when it is available in English, I think it's going to be a big hit. I'm
honestly so do you know when it's getting released? I know it's soon,
I
think honestly,
it's first quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to have a copy before Dice Tower West. It will be in the Dice Tower West library, but if the cruise was any indication, it'll probably either be in the hot game section or checked out constantly. And since I've played it already, I'm not going to monopolize it by checking it out. So I kind of want my own copy of the game, but I don't know. I looked on German Amazon and it was there, but it was more expensive and I would have had to pay for shipping. And honestly, I can be patient sometimes. So I say as I ordered a game from Japan within a week. So,
yes. I mean, if it's in the hot games area, you could always hover around and teach it and sit down to play.
I could offer to teach. I would be happy to do that. It's fun because each hand is a game essentially. And when you beat a level, you just move to the next level. And that's kind of a new game, basically. So,
And the first few levels basically teach you how to play and get you going. The first level is insanely easy. But future levels get a lot more tricky and have communication limits and all sorts of fun.
Totally.
Okay, I think we should probably wrap things up.
Yes, we're a little bit beyond our usual time. Yeah. I would say before we wrap things up, though, those of you watching live, first off, thank you for joining us tonight. If you could do us a big favor and click the little thumbs up button below the video, we really appreciate it. It helps with the YouTube algorithms and it helps more people find this video after the fact, which means hopefully they'll come join us live for our next episode, which is going to be 2 weeks from today, which is going to be the week before Dice Tower West start.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it'll be 1 week before Dice Tower West. And to that point, if you have decided all of a sudden that you'd like to come to Dice Tower West and you do not have a badge yet, while badge sales have ended, you can join the Dice Tower West Convention Facebook group, and people are transferring badges there. People find out they can't go last minute or they have to work, and there are still badges available that are being transferred from people. So if you do want to join us in Las Vegas for Dice Tower West, February 26th through March 1st, join the Facebook group and grab a badge there. We would love to have you join us.
And while we're throwing out thank yous, big, huge, gigantic thank you to everyone who backed the Dice Towers Kickstarter, which wrapped up at the end of last week. It's going to help us a lot in preparing for another year of content. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Very much so. Words can't express how wonderful this community is and how much we appreciate your all's support. So thank you for doing that. But I guess we will see you all in 2 weeks. And until then, I'm Crystal Pisano.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thanks for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thanks. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Cannaday, and Rob Searing. Our Underwater Kingdom's signature lobster soup provided by Abysk. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek, on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. So do you get credit for this one? Because this one was real good. No, you don't have. This one's not you. I tweaked it a little, but yeah, that's from. No, that is A+ pun. Love it. Bye, everyone. Bye, everybody.